Good afternoon. In May 2015, I was in Israel with my wife when I got a call from my lawyer. Do not come back to Venezuela. He said, they will arrest you immediately. I figured it would be over soon, and in just a few days, I would be able to go back home. I was wrong. It has been 6 years now. Today, I live in exile in Spain, and I run the Venezuela's largest independent newspaper, although I do it remotely. El Nacional was founded in 1943 by my father, a journalist, and my grandfather, an entrepreneur. We have always been a newspaper that complies with truthfully reporting. We do it now, and we also did it in the past. However, when Hugo Chavez first ran for president in 1998, we backed him because he represented a possible change for good. He won the elections cleanly. I met with him numerous times, and at first it didn't seem to be terribly wrong. He was charismatic, a great communicator. He defended, at least rhetorically, our right to free speech and promised a liberal democratic program along the lines of Tony Blair's humanistic capitalism. But by 2001, Chavez showed his true colors. He was obsessed with staying in power, and he lashed out at anyone who challenged him. He used his Sunday TV show, Hello President, to attack the media and journalists, including me personally. The last time I spoke to him was a phone call about an article we had published. He insisted that the report where we refer the murder by police of innocent people was a lie. I stood my ground and told him that if he wanted to talk to the reporter, he could. Then I handed the woman's reporter the phone, and she agreed to take Chavez to their graves. But he did not change his mind. After the 2002 coup attempt against him, he put new exchange controls in place which skyrocketed the price of paper. The price we should pay for a ton of newsprint was 30 or 40 times what an official newspaper had to pay. Most newspapers did not survive under these conditions. Luckily, in our case, publishers in other countries came to our rescue. We received shipments of paper from Mexico, from Bogota, from Costa Rica, from Uruguay, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Peru, Panama, Argentina, Ecuador, and Chile. Great newspapers of the continent sent newsprint to keep printing. And we kept publishing for a couple of years. Even when our journalists were harassed, even when they threw rocks at our building, even when one of Chavez's supporters set off a bomb outside the office, outside our office, the bomber was arrested, but released a day later without charges. Chavez knew that to stay in power, he needed to follow Cuba's model. So he cozied it up to Fidel Castro and called for a communication hegemony. He strengthened his ties with China, Iran, Cuba, and he made a $2.5 million arms deals with Russia. He also accepted criminal groups, the FARC, the ELN guerrilla, Colombian guerrillas, Hezbollah, building the authoritarian model that rules Venezuela. In 2007, I knew things were becoming really bad. Chavez shut down Radio Caracas Televisión. At that time, television. At that time, it was Venezuela's largest independent TV station with 10 million viewers, nearly half of the country's population. Thousands of protesters took the streets, but it didn't matter. In its place, Chavez's administration launched the next day their own new propaganda TV channel with the infrastructure of Radio Caracas TV. In a few years, Chavez's regime effectively destroyed independent TV and radio. And while Venezuelans were starving to death, he used state money to buy up media outlets. A year before his death, his administration asked me to sell them the paper, and I refused. We were the only important newspaper that refused to sell itself to the government. In 2013, Chavez died, and the foreign minister, Maduro, took over. It was the Cubans who appointed him. By then, Venezuela no longer had an independent judicial system. The judges became servants of the executive power, where all the acts and decisions obey instructions of the regime. It was in 2015 that we republished an article from ABC, the Spain newspaper, about Diosdado Cabello, a high-ranking military lieutenant colonel and the president of the National Assembly. The article reported that the US government was investigating Cabello for trafficking cocaine in coordination with the FARC, Colombia's guerrilla army. And yes, all of this was true. If you go to the United States State Department website right now, you will see a $10 million reward for information leading to his arrest. But it doesn't matter what is true or not under Maduro's reign. Cabello sued our newspaper and two other media for slander. And it was then that I received a call from my lawyer: don't come back to Venezuela. I was shocked, but I never once doubted our decision to publish. And I never once considered stopping. So I continued to run the newspaper from exile, and in 2017, the Venezuelan judge reached a decision. We owe Cabello $1 million. Yes, $1 million. But with the country's hyperinflation, that amounted to about $12,000. Cabello was not happy with that decision either. He ordered the Supreme Court to open a new trial. They changed the verdict from $12,000 to $13 million. We asked them to justify that number. They couldn't. So the Venezuelan army stormed our building and removed every last person inside. They say the building belongs to Cabello now. It was part of his repayment. Luckily, our reporters were already accustomed to work from home at this point during the pandemic. All our servers were offshore. We stopped printing physical papers in 2018 because of the lack of newsprint. So everything is online. Our servers are in the US, and our journalists can continue their work no matter what Maduro tries against us. However, the harassment of reporters has been terrible. They physically assault them, steal their work tools, threaten them, arrest them. Only the brave and daring ones are willing to work as journalists knowing the risks they run. In February 2022, the government blocked our website, and our Venezuelan readership dropped to nothing. However, we tried to teach our readers on how to use a VPN to evade their internet service provider. I am proud of the work we have done and the work we will continue to do at El Nacional. Chavez and Maduro have tried everything they could to destroy independent journalists, but we will not let it happen. They have destroyed our country. It's like a war. The suffering of Venezuela defies any description. They have driven 6 million people to leave the country, 1/5 of the population of Venezuela. They have destroyed our economy. They have let our people starve. Today, 95% of the population lives in extreme poverty. The average Venezuelan family lives on $20 per month. Not per hour, not per day, per month. 66 cents a day. And repression is a constant in that government, in that regime. For too long, we Venezuelans look at other countries and we used to say, Venezuela is not Cuba. What happened to them cannot happen to us. But it did happen. Perhaps you're saying the same now. You listen to my story and say, what happened to Venezuela will never happen to us. But I'm telling you, it can. Right now, several Latin American countries are courting politicians just like Chavez. Chile, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, and Honduras. Do not take freedom for granted. Our country is on the brink of collapse. It could explode at any moment. But I believe when it does, democracy will prevail. And then I will be on the first flight back to my country, back to my children, back to my grandchildren, I only know them by Skype, and back to my people. That day, the headlines of El Nacional will read, Venezuela returns to democracy. Thank you.